WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.
I'm Kyle Long, host of Cultural Manifesto, just one of the local music programs you can enjoy on WFYI. These programs would not be possible without your financial support. And to say thank you, we want to send you to see Lyle Lovett when he comes to Indianapolis on July 28th. Choose a concert ticket as your gift when you donate at WFYI.org/give. And thanks for supporting WFYI.
This is WFYI News Now. It's June 27th, and I'm Abriana Herron. On today's show, Cummins announces a round of layoffs, claiming it's the consequences of the company's zero-emissions commitment. And we've got a conversation on the city's plan for low-head dams along the White River, which are not only dangerous for people having fun on the water, they also impact the river's ecology.
The consequences, we've been dealing with it for over 100 years now. So,
those stories coming up, but first, hospital staffing shortages were exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Now the Indiana Hospital Association says the state has more than 4,000 nursing positions open each year. As Side Effects Public Media's Elizabeth Gabriel reports, the IHA launched software this month to connect hospitals with available staff.
The new platform is the Indiana Resource Pool. It's kind of like an online Rolodex. The app matches local and per diem clinicians to healthcare facilities. Matt Browning is the Senior Vice President of Member Solutions and Engagement with the Indiana Hospital Association. He says hospitals typically pay staffing companies to help fill open positions, but IHA's app aims to cut those costs.
If we take some of the hurdles and the headaches out of that process, we think that we're going to stand a much better chance at trying to connect folks locally in their communities with their local providers for opportunities like this.
Browning says at least 23 Indiana hospitals will have access to the app within the next month. Elizabeth Gabriel, Side Effects Public Media.
Cummins is undergoing a round of layoffs, citing the company's commitment to a zero-emissions business strategy. It's unclear how many will be affected or what locations or departments will experience layoffs. Cummins makes power systems for vehicles and other machines. It's headquartered in Columbus and employs more than 10,000 Hoosiers. A spokesperson says some positions may be eliminated as the company fulfills its goal of becoming net zero by 2050. And for our final story today, a low-head dam is a structure built across a river where water still flows, but is very hazardous for users. Indianapolis announced it will remove one low-head dam as part of an ongoing effort to make the White River safer for recreation and to improve the river's ecology. The city secured a U.S. Fish and Wildlife grant this year to remove the dam, which lies downtown just south of 16th Street. WFYI's Jill Sheridan sat down with Friends of the White River Executive Director, Scott Salmon, to talk about the history of the Emrichsville Dam and the bigger problem of low-head dams.
That's been an issue, ongoing issue in the White River for many people as we're looking to, traverse the river and make it more user-friendly.
Yeah, and Indiana has quite a few low-head dams. Many have been removed, but we still probably have over 100 statewide, making the rivers and streams dangerous for people to recreate on and also fragmenting the ecology of the river system.
Why were they put in originally?
It really depends. Some of them, of the oldest ones, were put in like mills, like early settlement. We're talking like 1820s to, 1840s or 50s. A little bit later, they started being put in for infrastructure purposes. With industrialization, you got machinery that needs cooling. Water cools things pretty well. Also, to get drinking water to treatment plants so people had drinking water. Emrichsville was not built for any of those purposes. It was built in the late 1800s for the purposes of recreation. So the idea was Riverside Park, which is bigger than Central Park. It has the river flowing through it, and at the time that Riverside Park was being developed, they decided to turn the river into a lake. It's called Lake Indy. Well, what they didn't know back then is, one, that it was really detrimental to the natural ecology of the White River. The science of ecology hadn't even been invented yet, so they didn't know what they didn't know. And the consequences, we've been dealing with it for over 100 years now. So
talk a little bit about, I didn't realize how it impacts the ecology.
Well, in simple terms, the way I've been explaining a lot lately is when you have that low-head dam, fish species can't go upstream. And many fish species are dependent on small tributary streams. And so the fish community is entirely different. The plant community, you would see things, especially invasive plant species, really thrive in those areas that are backed up by dams.
Let's talk about this particular dam. I mean, it's become a real danger as well. We've seen, 2 kayakers recently passed away.
Yeah, the Emrichsville Dam has killed 3 people in the last 3 years. And that's just unacceptable to have that kind of drowning hazard next to a public park. The history of Belmont Beach is actually really closely tied with the Emrichsville Dam. So it was really the dividing line between, you had better water and healthier water and cleaner water upstream of the dam, and downstream was slaughterhouse outfalls, and it was nasty stuff. So that dividing line in the 1920s became a racial dividing line because of the control of the KKK over the city of Indianapolis, the segregation of all the Indy Parks facilities. So you talk about an environmental injustice. Belmont Beach and the Emrichsville Dam are a pretty good example of the harm we've done to our own citizens.
Also, we're worried about this moving forward at a timely manner. Is that correct?
Right. So the time frame for the Emrichsville Dam removal, I think the earliest we'll see an excavator with basically a giant jackhammer out there getting rid of the dam would be July of 2025. There's state and federal permits that need to be filed and approved. This is all about safety for recreational users and improving the ecology. And in the springtime, fish spawn. And so if you have heavy equipment in that spawning area, it can really hurt the reproduction of different fish species. So there's a moratorium on construction within that the bottom of the stream bed throughout the spring. So they kind of, July 1st is usually when they say work can begin.
So hopefully,
and that's if everything goes right. If the bureaucrats who have been holding things up don't continue to hold things up.
Well, that's all for today's episode of WFYI News Now. Our podcast is produced by Drew Daudelin with support from the news team at WFYI and public media journalists across the state. Our news director is Sarah Neal-Estes, Kendall Antron produced our music, and I'm your host, Abriana Herron. If you like today's episode, remember to subscribe and share, and follow WFYI on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to check in on our newsroom throughout the day. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.
WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.